Here we go. Right, we are recording. Thank you for everybody for coming. This is our occasional update on Israel and the Middle East war. This time we're discussing the blockaded Strait of Hormuz, and I hope this will be some news and perspectives you would not have heard anywhere else. Here we go. So this is the background from last time we met a few weeks ago. If you were with me, thank you. If not, we discussed the apparent desire for Iran to be able to do an EMP against perhaps the United States. How do we know that? They apparently did a missile launch a number of years ago in the Caspian Sea from a container ship, and they can put these missiles in a simple container ship container, and some of these containers can like stand up and shoot a missile from them. And the trajectory of the missile approximated what would be used for an EMP test. An EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, is what a really cool and horrible way to create destruction with a small atomic bomb, where if it's put in the right place in the atmosphere, the electromagnetic pulse from the explosion goes down, and it affects an enormous area on the ground because it's very high up. And it could theoretically, if it placed in the right spot in Kansas, an EMP could destroy basically all the electrical systems in the United States, just about continental United States. Millions, God forbid, worse than millions would die, God forbid. I think that Donald Trump is well aware of this, and this means that if Iran gets the bomb, they don't need to create a missile which will launch and carry the bomb all the way to New York City. And anyway, that would be small change, very small change compared to the EMP that could be done with which is a regular small atomic bomb, all right, on a silly little missile on a container ship somewhere in the Atlantic or the Pacific, which would then shoot the missile, launch it somewhere from, I don't know, 200-300 miles away, 500 miles away from the U.S. coast. It would go over the U.S. mainland, and God forbid, 100 times, 1,000 times for all of these things I'm saying, and go off at the right place and the right time and all that stuff. Devastation would be unbelievable. Unbelievable. Would the Ayatollahs do it? Yeah, I think so. Maybe. So the idea is to put on a container ship, and then you can't track every container ship. And then they launch this thing off, and they just scuttle the ship. That means they sink it. So you can't even. By the time the thing exploded, the ship would be going down, and they would be at the bottom of the ocean, but before anybody would be anywhere near able to figure out what happened. So there's no more time to kick this can down the road. All right, Abby, you see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I think that maybe, just maybe, President Trump has really understands this and doesn't want this to happen. Okay, and that's the reason for the current, I don't call it the war. This is not a current war. This is the current round of many rounds in the current war, which started in October of 2023. Okay, so they refer to this as the war. This is not the war. This is one of a small part of many parts of this war. I don't consider it to be a distinct war in any sense. And even between Israel and Iran and the United States and Iran, there's been iterations of this one already. So, and it's not, if this having a ceasefire doesn't end the war. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. All right, onward. So currently we're having a crisis at the Strait of Hormuz. I've put the word crisis in scare quotes because I don't think it's such a big deal. Okay, it's true that a lot of oil and gas goes through there, and also some other important things like fertilizer. But a lot of oil, even from the Gulf region, goes outside of the Gulf on pipelines and stuff like that. And there's plenty of oil elsewhere in the world. It's not like anybody's going to run out of oil. Certainly not in the United States, which is a net oil and gas exporter. So, but that said, the background is that the United States and Israel clearly won this current round of fighting militarily. Nobody would dream of suggesting otherwise. The question is who's going to win politically, right? It can, politics, I don't know. I mean, winning a war, and there's winning the war on the ground by points but if it's not by a knockout, then it's a question whether the goals were attained, right? And the side that attains its goals is considered the winner, right? Now we have to determine the price of gas in the United States. That's a big factor for some reason. Fertilizer is a big. There's a lot of fertilizer coming out of the Gulf made from petrochemicals. There's U.S. casualties in the war. And I put that in quotes because, again, it's only part of the bigger work. And the U.S. midterm elections are coming up. Now, just putting that's on the U.S. side. The question is, whoever's talking, please mute yourself. Abby, if you can mute.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're able to mute? They should be at the top if they're talking.
I'm muting people. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right, with extreme prejudice. All right, so the now is the price that my question is, and that's why I have this thing here. What on earth is going on? The U.S. Tolerance for fighting now has gone so far down. It's like, well, the price of gas is up above whatever it is, $6 in California. So therefore, we have to stop fighting. I mean, the fertilizers are going to be a problem. Okay, fertilizers, it's important. Maybe we can get some fertilizers from over land. Maybe they can ship by truck to the Indian Ocean or to the Red Sea and export their fertilizer that way. It's possible. I don't know. U.S. casualties in the war. I saw Megan Kelly was speaking about the war early on, and she's an early adapter of the anti-war crowd on the right. And she was saying, listing the problems. And she says there's already been 7 people killed, 7 U.S. service people killed. And there was this some kind of attack on a school where there's some civilian casualties. Seven service people killed is one service person for almost every 50 million Americans. Around that, say 45 million Americans. By that, if that's the calculus now, if we hit 7, we got to stop this thing, baby. 7 casualties, 7 people killed. Pearl Harbor was over. I checked. There was over 2,000 servicemen killed. It was almost all U.S. servicemen. It wasn't like a terrorist attack. They attacked. The Japanese attacked like military stuff, and but over 2,000 soldiers and sailors and Marines were killed. I think that did worry about probably more sailors than soldiers. But if the Americans say, whoa, that's more than one military casualty for every 45 million people in the United States. In those days there were about 200 million people in the United States. So 2,000, it's one to 100 every time. That's 2,000 times 100. 100, 1 for every 100,000. That's way lower than 1 for 45 million. I hope I did the math right. So he said, we got to stop this thing. We got to stop this war. It's already past our 1 to 45 million people list, casualty ratio. It's too much. We have to forget this thing. No war with Japan. Forget it. Like, I mean, what is the threshold today? Is the United States able to fight a war? Or is like this anything over, let's say, 20 or 30 people killed? Is that too much to bear now? So I'm a little bit questioning that. The U.S. midterm elections, of course, are coming up, and it seems that many people on the right are more concerned about the midterms than they are about, let's say, Iran getting a nuke and doing an EMP. Okay, so I'm going to put that in perspective. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that calculus. Not that it matters what I think, but let's leave that open as that question. This is the U.S. side thing. The question is that everyone wants to know: can Iran pull a Rocky Balboa, and can he be standing when the final bell rings after 15 rounds? that would be considered a victory for Iran. But should we care about that? I don't know. In Israel, we have this problem where we think if we don't win in such a way that the other side admits that they lost, then it's not really a victory. Why? I don't understand that. I really don't agree with that. I mean, if you have a war and one side clobbers the other, and but it's not necessarily over forever, but it's one side clobbers the other. You have to be happy with clobbering. I don't know. I don't understand the mentality. If the Iran feels that they can get bombed for, I forget what, 35 days and have, I don't know, tens of thousands of bombs dropped on them and all kinds of cool stuff destroyed, but if they're still standing, they consider that to be victory. I hope they have many such victories. That's my kind of victory for the other side. So I don't know. We should let them have their Rocky Balboa, and they should be smug about it. We can have parades and so, and I don't think we should allow them to decide what we feel is a victory or not. We should have our own definition of what victory is, and I think setting back Iran in their nuclear ambitions and their missile ambitions and knocking their economy to pieces when their economy is already in shambles, I think that's pretty good. If that's the best we can do, I would much rather we finish this thing. I would much rather finish the thing, but it's a problem because again, President Trump has told Israel to stop. They have this thing in the English Taka, which Trump always chickens out. My thing is not the chickens out, but he always makes Israel stop before Israel finishes the job. He did it in Gaza. He did it in Lebanon. He's about to do it again in Lebanon. He's done it twice now in Iran. So I think maybe I don't agree with that either. But all right, the question is, this is right now the political question is who's going to win this thing. We'll have to see. All right, but that said, Trump doesn't seem to care about the midterms. Have you noticed that? He doesn't seem to care. Like he seems to think that fighting this one out is more important than the midterms. He doesn't seem so worried about it. Everybody else is worried about it. People I talk to, the right, they're like, oh, he's going to get clobbered in the midterms. Is he? Maybe. Because gasoline, okay, maybe. I don't know. He doesn't seem to mind so much. Does he? So my question, I don't know. I'm asking questions. I'm like, certain people say, I'm just asking questions. I don't know. Is he losing his edge? Is it like a short term for is he going senile? Is he slowly going into the Joe Biden track or something? Do people think that? Does he know something that we don't? Does he maybe think that that he can win the midterms even if gasoline is going up to $6 a gallon in California? Is he on a mission from God? And I request those who are old enough to envision the Blues Brothers being on a mission from God here. Does Trump feel that his life was saved for a reason by God, and he has said that that's true? And does he feel that eliminating Iran's ability to destroy, let's say, the Western Hemisphere is why he was put on Earth, why he was saved from getting killed by the assassin's bullet? I don't know. I'm just asking. I don't know. Okay, or is this really 4D chess? You always have to ask, is it 4D chess or not? It's always. All right, so let's take a look. I'm gonna try to address number 4 here. Is this really 4D chess? I don't know if what he thinks, and I don't know what he knows that I don't know. Because if I knew it, then he wouldn't know it, and I don't know. But if he loses edge, maybe. Let's analyze this possibility, okay? With the background as follows. What we know, okay, that Trump is in control of the U.S. government now, not like the first time around. In his first presidency, he didn't really have great control over his own executive branch. Now he's in full control. He's got people who will say he will do what he tells them to do, and if he doesn't, he's willing to fire them. Like unlike the first time around, when like Jeff Sessions was like his attorney general, and he wasn't helping him out. But he left him in place for 2 years. Look what happened to Pam Bondi. She's gone. All right. She was totally on his side. It's just he wasn't doing the work. So he got rid of her. So he's in control. He gets what he wants out of his people, or he gets new people. All right. As second, Trump is uninhibited. As we know, he's not one to shy away from doing what he feels like. So he's, as always, willing to do things that other people say he shouldn't or can't or won't. He just can't, right? We don't do that, Mr. President. Well, this president, we know, does all kinds of things that no other president does. So he could do just about anything. We know that the U.S. military is totally up for this. Whatever happened when the military was hollowed out for DEI reasons and all that kind of stuff, for racial justice and the things that were happening in the past, they are back and we're ready to fight. Whatever you want to say, the fact that a lot of the top generals were removed, nobody seems to mind. They want to fight. They're here. They're up for this. Right? The military, U.S. military is willing to do anything, and so far their implementation has been almost flawless in everything. So they're acting, they're operating at a very high level. And Trump basically has infinite options, because with the amount of power that he has and the military being behind him and his willingness to do anything, if he thinks it's a good idea, it leaves his options open. Whereas the pundits and the experts only seem to be able to game out a finite number of options, like what has been accepted, but the Overton window, right, of what's been accepted until now, right, as possible. They don't seem to be able to think beyond that. They wouldn't say, you know what, maybe Trump will close the Strait of Hormuz himself. Why, right? Nobody ever thought that. Did anybody say that? Anybody said, in fact, I don't know why it took so long. The Iranians are ready to take their oil out, but nobody else is ready to take their oil out. Okay. So what's the obvious thing to do? Just to close it to them also. Right? Why didn't anybody make that suggestion? Why did Trump do it anyway? So his options are infinite. So it's very hard to figure out what he's going to do, because he can do just about anything that he can imagine, like the Green Lantern, right? If you can imagine it, it becomes reality. So if all he needs to do is have some idea that, let's try this. And the problem is most human beings aren't creative enough to come up with all the options, but he's got people that maybe can. So it's very hard to know what's going to happen, because Trump can do just about anything. And the pundits, I wouldn't put too much faith in them. Just as an aside, I was thinking recently that the nice thing about being a pundit is you break predictions, and it makes no difference whether they come true or not. It's good if they come true, because then you can say, I said it would happen and it happened. But if it doesn't, you just ignore it and just go on. Nobody keeps a track record. Nobody. Right? The other side might put something, right? Notice that you said the wrong thing and bring it out like 3 years later, but it doesn't affect your readers. As long as if you're a pundit and you're saying what the people who you're writing for want to hear, then apparently that's sufficient. So I was thinking maybe it would be a good idea, just totally as an aside, that every time a pundit or an expert made a prediction, that they would have to go into the prediction markets and bet. And they should have their like some kind of a public, I don't know if you can do that, some kind of a public account, and bet money and see if it works. I think it's going to be X, by the time X is going to be Y, and you can bet on just about anything, I think. And I checked it out earlier today. Just check prediction markets, Google that. Go to one of them and start betting. Why not? I think maybe I should try it. If I do well, then I'll share it. And if not, I won't tell anybody. Yeah, and see if my predictions are good. That would be fair, right? You're predicting, all right? You have to put enough skin in the game so that we can see what your track record is in the future. I think that would be a great idea for experts. All right, that's it. Let's have some options for what might be 3D chess. Now, I'm going to bring 3 articles, And I'm going to try to bring these up on my screen. No, I'm not, because it's very long. This one's nice and short, though. Can I paste? I'm going to see if I can paste this in. No. Come on. No, it's not going to let me paste this. How do I get out of this? I need to copy and paste. Oh, I know. Wait a second. I got it in my notes here. 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing. And this will make it hopefully easier for me to bring up my notes, and I can copy and paste these for your reading pleasure. 3 great articles I came across. If I can just second. Bingo. Okay, I have them in my notes here. It's a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to put the first one into the chat. If I can find the chat. Okay, there it is. It's nice and short and sweet. Okay, this article is a brilliant take, in my opinion, on what's going on. I'm going to show my screen again. Oh, how this works. Okay, great. So here's the first one. You can go to that page if you want. I just copied and pasted this into the chat box. I hope you got it. Abby, did you see it? You see the chat box?
Is there? Yeah.
Great. You can go and read that at your own speed. Basically, what it says is that Trump actually wants the Strait of Hormuz closed right now because he's got a problem. If you were with me the last time, a little rant as a U.S. citizen. I'm a binational citizen, a dual citizenship, and as a lifelong Native American, not a Native American, but a native-born American citizen, I'm as roughly as offended and upset with the NATO quote-unquote allies, and I definitely put that in the scare quotes because I don't really consider them allies anymore, for doing absolutely nothing to protect their oil that they need. The U.S. does not need the oil from the Gulf. They need it desperately, and yet they expect the Americans not only to protect it for them, but also to pay for it, and also not to land in the joint bases in Europe, which are there to protect the Europeans. And not to even, some of the, Spain wouldn't let the U.S. fly over its territory. I think maybe it's time to reevaluate the whole NATO thing. Very much, right? Useless, not even allies, petulant teenagers. Okay, not only do they give nothing back, but they also complain about it. Unbelievable, unbelievable. I think so. They say that Trump is maybe reconsidering the NATO alliance. Hey, baby, I think it's time to take a hike. Definitely, let them protect themselves for a few minutes, and maybe they'll learn, as we call it in Hebrew, some derech eretz. Maybe they'll learn proper behavior, how to act. All right now, so his idea was over here that this brings out into the open the actual problem, which is one that the European countries are extremely dependent on Arab oil and from the Gulf, and also on the Americans to protect the sea lanes for them, while they do nothing except complain.
Is NATO making?
Excuse me. If that was a comment, I think from Lawrence, then please, I didn't catch what it was. If it was not for all of us, that's fine. You can stay muted. That's fine. Okay. So if I've offended any Europeans, then too bad. I get used to it, I think. I think much of America is really, we're really pissed off about this one. I think it's now, I understand that it's true that the United States is the global policeman at sea, because the United States has benefited the most from this whole thing. with the international trade working and not having piracy and stuff like that. So it makes sense. But for the Europeans to line up and say, you've got to protect our oil, but we're not going to pay a penny for it. We're going to deny you use of the bases that you're paying for and our airspace because we have now huge Muslim minorities that we have to worry about. I think maybe it's time to very much time to reconsider this. And according to this, that's exactly what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to bring it out into the open, the mess that it is, that the current system is, in order to force the Europeans to put up or shut, or preferably both. Okay, so that's what this was about. I love it. Short and sweet, read it. All right, this is a little bit hard to see, but I will, because I should have made this smaller, but too late now. Copy and paste. This is a long and technical article, but oh so worth it. Okay, I'm going to try to get this into the chat. One moment. Okay, here it is. Bingo. Okay. Read it slow and try to understand it. It's all about monetary policy and making the dollar, again, the central currency of the world, and which will force the world to sort of be controlled monetarily by the U.S. as it has been since this since the Bretton Woods Agreement was put into place. When, as he put it, when the U.S. controlled the oil and the industry and the finance back in the good old days for some, and maybe not the good old days for others, but the idea is to reclaim that. Now the BRICS, and I think I might be missing a letter here, aren't I? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and I'm missing somebody. There's another letter in the BRICS there. I don't think 6. Anyway, the BRICS are trying to do an end run around the dollar, because everybody else doesn't like the dollar, right? That gives the United States enormous control over everything that happens. And if the BRICS can set up an alternative system where they're not buying and selling oil, especially in US dollars, then that will totally change the balance of power in the planet. So according to this long article, and he goes on and on and on and on, shows all the different ways that this is working by eliminating the threat from Iran, which is also might be in this list here.
Over there, and every once in a while, you're driving down the highway.
Thank you for your muting, Abby. I think that was you. It's if Trump has this in mind, right, which is very likely, because this is everything Trump does. Everything. It always has an angle to affect Russia and China. Always. That's since his first term. They make this new trade agreement with Canada and Mexico. And I was reading what it was, and it said right in there, it's got this, and China will be boxed out of this, and this. I mean, it's like an obsession with him, and rightfully so. Okay, because he sees apparently China as the main threat to the American power in the world, and rightfully so. So the idea is to knock this thing out, put everything back under the control of the dollar. He brings in cryptocurrency and all kinds of interesting stuff, which I would never thought of. And I'm not sure even Trump thought of all that stuff. I'm not even sure Trump can put his head around all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of technical stuff there. I don't know if that's his thing. I don't know. But his people can. So I think it's very interesting. By knocking out Iran and hurting China and bringing Iran's oil into the American sphere again, just like he did with Venezuelan oil, both of which, the Venezuelan oil and the Iranian oil is being basically shipped to China. So by cutting them off from the oil and putting that into U.S. control, it would put the U.S. back in the driver's seat, more in the driver's seat, and a dominant position in the driver's seat in the whole world international financial system. Very interesting read, technical and long. Okay, so you're gonna have to maybe take it slow, but definitely worth reading. Very interesting. Okay, next option, finally. No, where is it? Okay, yes. The format is not so good here, but Okay, the last possible option that I saw, which I thought was fascinating, is this is a warning to or an oil strangulation for China for 2027 and more. And in I think yesterday's Jerusalem Post, the Jerusalem Report article from it appeared in Jerusalem Post. I'll put that in the box so you don't have to copy and paste, like letter by letter here. 1 second. Okay, there it is in all its glory. It's not a long read; it's an easy read, but it goes like this: China has a strategic problem that they don't have too much oil. Now, they're trying to deal with this by doing an enormous amount of work in creating an infrastructure for green, renewable electricity from hydro and from solar, and I don't know about probably wind also. And of course, electric vehicles are a huge push by the Chinese economy as a whole, both for their own local use and elsewhere. Because if they can get the world off of using oil for transportation, then they, who don't have oil, are let off the hook. But right now, they were getting their oil from Venezuela and from Iran at a big discount, and Venezuela is now basically under the thumb of the U.S. And Iran is basically about to have their oil blockaded from getting out of the Gulf. So that means China is going to have to either look for a new supplier or whatever they may cut off. Now, what's 2027? 2027 is the year that they've been banding about for years now on when it'd be optimal for China to invade Taiwan. So this article is claiming that if China can't get its oil, or if it best from dedicated patrons, not patient. China's a patron. What's the other side? Client states, vassal states, such as Iran and Venezuela, then China will be less able to do whatever it feels like, especially if it tries to invade Taiwan. Now, I just want to point out that if China invades Taiwan, they will win. And they're right next to Taiwan. There will be nothing that the U.S. can do because the U.S. is too far away to bring enough troops over to do much of anything, and right next to practically next to the Chinese mainland, and Taiwan, if it is the major chip manufacturer for the West, for the high-end chips, computer chip stuff. Surely the Chinese want that chip manufacturing for themselves, and they definitely want to deny it to the West. No advanced chips from Taiwan means all the awesome computer stuff and the military stuff that uses those computers and the computers that use those chips and so on and so on and so on and so on is all in their hands, right? That's all as bad as that EMP thing from Iran. Now, 2027 is in 7.5 months. Is that right? So I don't know if they're really planning but they've been in the West, they've been banning that number about for years, and now it's here. So the first thing is to weaken China's position for oil. I think they can do without it because I just think they can buy it elsewhere. But in addition, I added this. I think they allude to it in the article somewhat. Iran is fighting with Chinese equipment, the missile stuff, it's that they're making, that they're building, that they're developing, is supported by Chinese know-how and often manufacturing. Okay, so I think that if China is being sent a message here, that the whole thing with Iran is like, you give them your air defense systems, so we see what they did, how useful they were against the U.S. and Israeli planes. They weren't. So I think it's sort of a wake-up call to China that their military is not as well provisioned as they think it is. All right, so this all might be part of that game as well. That's what he's reading here. That's what he's saying here. All right. Now, that said, I just want to point out my own prediction that I mean, isn't China going to retaliate at some point? I mean, those of us who into conspiracy theories, it sure looked like the COVID virus got out just when Trump was having his way with China the first time around, and the George Floyd riots sort of came out of nowhere, didn't they? Maybe also because of China. I mean, at the time, it sort of seemed weird. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist guy because I have no idea. I'm just asking questions, as some people say, right? So I mean, I don't think they're gonna take this laying down forever. Just be warned. Oops, sorry. If it's really true, sorry about that. If it's really true that all of this is against China and it's working, and if it's true that it's really working, which I'm not clear, I mean, really seriously working, then they're going to do something back at some point. Just be warned. Right? That's my thought on the matter. Okay, great. That's my presentation. How are we doing on time here? Oh, great. Very good on time here. So I have some time for some questions. If anybody has any awesome questions or even not awesome questions. Anybody want to ask them? You can unmute yourself, or you could. Wait a second. Does anybody write some stuff in the chat that I should have addressed?
Yeah, there were questions in the chat. But how about we take, instead of running through the chat, if people still have questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and we'll go through them one by one.
Let me answer Danielle in the meantime. She's, I think, the last question. How is Hamas's armament progressing? Is the old town of Jerusalem open again? The old city of Jerusalem is open. I don't think it was ever closed. Was it ever closed, the old city, Abby? There was.
I think that I'm not sure if it was formally closed or whether it may have been during when there were a lot of missiles being shot. They may have closed the old city.
They limited the Western Wall to like 50 people.
Yeah.
Which
okay.
makes no sense because you can go on both sides, especially the men's side. There's this huge tunnel, which is like a great bomb shelter. So I don't know the issue there, but they did limit that. But you could go to the old city. You just couldn't congregate in large numbers at the Western Wall, which during the Passover holiday would have been tens of thousands of people at the wall and the plaza at one time. That's what it is usually. And I've been there, and it's huge, and it's really wonderful to be with such a festive kind of crowd, just hanging out and a lot of prayers and all that stuff, but also just sitting there and eating, picnic lunch kind of thing. So and that didn't happen this year. So if that's what you're referring to, Danielle, then there is that, but it wasn't officially closed. Okay, why is
Tony has a question?
Yeah, why is gas price in USA increasing if USA doesn't depend on Gulf oil? That's a good question. And the answer, which is not a good answer, but it is the answer, is that the U.S., that the oil is priced internationally for reasons that I don't think it has to be. But just because natural gas is priced locally more, that you buy local most of the time, unless you get these LNG, liquid natural gas shipments. But if it's coming via a pipeline, then it's pretty much locally priced, as I understand it. But oil is priced on the world market, so if something's affected over here, then prices are affected over there as well. But it doesn't have to be that way. And my understanding is it doesn't have to be that way, and I think the U.S. should change it because right now it's not in the U.S.'s interest. Barbara says, China has been currently pushing to enhance the relationship with China since Trump told Carney he needs to stay away from China. What is your take on this? I suggest that the Canadians start learning to speak Chinese and Russian, if that's what they're going to do. Okay? My wife's family's from Canada, and maybe they should start boning up because without the U.S. protecting Canada, just like Europe, they would be long since all people speaking Russian by now, if it wasn't for the U.S. support, NATO, but NATO is the U.S. And the same thing with Canada. That's a fact. Okay.
Shimshon, Tony's got his hand raised. Tony, you have a question?
I'm going to unmute yourself.
He's unmuted.
Okay. Mickey says to make my microphone sound louder. Am I too quiet, Abby?
I can hear you okay.
Okay, so please, Mickey, if that was directed to me, please turn up your volume as much as you can. You can also turn it up inside Zoom, not just on the computer. See what you can do there. I'm sorry if I'm too quiet. Okay, yes, Tony, you had a question?
No, you answered my question about the gas prices. That's all I wanted to
Okay,
say.
great. It
Uh,
kind of makes sense, I think, somehow, but right now it's not in America's interest. So Trump should just say, you know what? Never mind. And you can't do that, Mr. President? Yes, but this president does. Okay. Your view, Lebo, your view of 7 deaths is not from a Midwestern American who values American lives over any number of people in the Middle East, especially if they think it is a war for Israel. I know what that's if you, Lebo, are a Midwestern American, or if that's a kind of a comment about rednecks or something.
I am not a Midwestern American, but I'm positing the position of the Midwest and the United States about this war.
Okay, so I don't think that the thank you. I don't think that the Trump administration has in any way, shape, or form done a proper job on messaging. I think everybody agrees on that. I don't know what the deal is there, but if anybody thinks that this is a war for Israel, I think that President Trump would have to make clear that's true. I think what is clear to anybody who has eyes now is that the United States has exactly one and only one ally in the world, one, who is willing to fight with the Americans, is able to fight with the Americans, and can do it at a good job, a very high level job, fighting with the Americans. The Europeans are totally out of the picture. There's only one ally in the whole world for the United States right now, which is sad. But actually, it's also the Americans' fault for letting the Europeans get away with it, and the Canadians, for that matter.
We're discounting Australia.
Should we? Discounting Australia. What about Australia? Can they fight?
They fought for the United States every time the United States asked them to fight.
Oh, okay. Also this time? When was the last time they fought with the United States? That's true. They probably fought in the second Gulf War. And okay, so maybe Australia. Great. So maybe two. Okay. And Australia's over there is in the Pacific. That's an important location. So if so, that's a good thing. Definitely. Thank you for the correction. So as far as I think that again, 7 military deaths, it is nothing. Okay. Now it doesn't mean that America should be fighting war for Israel. America should be fighting wars for America. Any country fighting wars for what its own values are. If the values of America align with defending Israel, then fine. If not, then they should not. And as far as Iran goes, though, I think it's just about as much an American problem, almost as much as it is an Israeli problem. Anybody that doesn't see that, it has not been getting properly messaged from the White House, and I blame the White House. What is the circulation of arts? Is it smaller paper than it was, and is it still profitable? This is from John Valzone. Arts has a very small circulation. It's a fringe left newspaper. However, has important circulation with fringe leftists around the world. So outside of the land of Israel, it's the paper you can quote to claim that Israelis think what leftists think Israelis should think. It's right there in her arts. Even the Israeli newspapers say that, let's say that Bibi Netanyahu is no good. Okay, but that's what her arts exists for. All right, so it's a very small paper. But it's got a very large influence around the world because they do have an English version, and they also are far left. I'd say they're more than lean left. They are far left. All the major newspapers, most of them lean left, and I'd say probably more than lean a bit left. They're probably more than leaning left. But Haaretz is way past, as I understand it. I don't read them because they're past my range of readability. Anybody else? Ani says, China's always been aggressive with India, our ally, and I can see that they would retaliate. There's a long-standing problem between India and China. They share a border, and they had a hot war just a few years ago over some mountain, something, and I don't remember what it was. To us outside of the area, it's relevant, but if you're there, they had a hot war. Moderate, please. Mute everyone. Okay, great. Any more questions that I missed here at the bottom? Are still missiles being launched into Israel and the need to run to shelters during the night? Thank you for asking that, Phyllis. I should have mentioned that. Okay, so right now, and I mean right now, as of 1 hour ago, I don't know if it's even still true. Israel's in a hot war with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Now, there's a whole big thing about that regarding the Iranians thinking that Israel was supposed to stop, so there could be ceasefire with Iran. That Israel would also have to stop fighting the Hezbollah client which is a client proxy of Iran. In the meantime, what Bibi's got plenty on his hands, so he's like, okay, every time Trump something stop fighting, he just moves on to the next theater. So Israel went back into Lebanon, who had started launching missiles against Israel in the current round when we started attacking, after we started attacking Iran, unprovoked, I might add. But they got back in, we had a ceasefire, which of course means nothing when the other side decides to fire again. So they started firing missiles, and there's tons of missiles being shot at the north as of, I think, 1 hour ago. By now, who knows what's changed? All right. So in the meantime, we have a situation where Israel's in a hot war trying to clear out Hezbollah at least as far as about 8 miles from the border. So that's the range that they can shoot their anti-tank missiles at Israeli houses, which are literally up against the border with Lebanon. So, and cleaning out southern Lebanon has been tried both by military means and by diplomatic means. And the diplomatic means, I think, we're not really in the mood for it anymore because it's a total waste of time. In fact, it's supposed to be done according to the recent ceasefire last year. It was the end of 2024, excuse me. The ceasefire with Lebanon. The Lebanese government was supposed to disarm Hezbollah, and they did not. So we're back to shooting them. They're back to shooting us. The other way around. They're back to shooting us. Now we're shooting them, and Israel's invaded. Look for an occupation of southern Lebanon going forward, at least as far as so that they can't shoot anti-tank rockets, which are, I guess, relatively easy to get and shoot at Israeli homes. Look, expect that. That's where we're going right now. Salman asks, how can we limit more rockets coming from Iran and reducing future production completely? It can't be done. All right, you can't. Unless Iran has 90 million people. It's a big country, landmass wise, huge. Okay, it's for the Middle East, especially. I mean, size of Alaska, if you know how big Alaska is. And the question is, and Israel has no control, and we're not going to occupy a country with 90 million people, and the U.S. is not going to do it either. So the only thing that can be done is to decimate their, hopefully, regime change. That might work. And then they can build all the rockets they want, and as long as they're using them against somebody else. I have no problem with them having a military, just when they use it against us. So the right regime change would be nice. If not, I would like to see their economy so screwed up that they just don't have money for missiles and the bomb and their proxies, but they make those a priority over their own citizens. So they got to be pretty far down economically for that. Maybe they're there. They may be there now. Okay. Oh, I didn't answer your other question, Danielle. How is Hamas's disarmament progressing? And the answer is real slow. And Israel doesn't even control the entire Gaza Strip. But allegedly they're trying to dig out find every tunnel, and why it would take all this time, I don't know. But it's in half of the Gaza Strip. They're doing a pretty good job, I think, of knocking down big buildings that overlook the border with Israel. And also digging up tunnels and finding weapons caches. And but the other half of Gaza, 48% or something, which is not occupied by Israel, nothing's happening. So they're probably rearming, in fact.
Thank you.
That's what peace brings you, okay? Okay, there's a bunch of new messages at the bottom. I have to go because I have a student on the hour, which is now. Okay, before we go, 1 second here. Before we go, if you want to support these meetings further, please, I suggest you visit this link here. Abby, can you type that into the chat box so I can go? Make sure it works.
Yeah.
If you want to meet this time next week on Sunday for a very nominal fee, $1 for the first week, just as a trial, and then like very small fee. We'd like to know if we can put together a 4-pay group so I can do this. I could put more time into it, and you have a small group would have me presenting stuff like this every week. You're able to ask me questions as we go. It would be much more not like a presentation, but a group meeting where everybody could participate if they chose. And it has a second benefit that I could finally justify my being a news junkie to my wife because I've been getting paid for it. So that's a win-win. Okay, so anybody who wants to participate in that, please go to this link, which hope Abby will pop into the chat for you. Sign up. It's just, and even if you can't make it next week at this time, it'll be next week at this time, Sunday. If you can't make it, sign up anyway. Be in touch with me. We can do a different time with enough people. So far, we have not gotten enough people together to make a group. So if anybody's interested, besides the one person who is here who told me that they were interested, please be so kind as to sign up. Or you can join our 4-pay classes for Hebrew, and that will give us all the money and excitement and time and energy to also put more time into these fun meetings about the Middle East. Okay, you can sign up at executivehebrew.com or at yourhebrew.com for any of our Hebrew courses. Okay, thank you very much, and I will hopefully see you again sometime in the future. In the meantime, I wish you shalom from Jerusalem, and thank you for joining us. I'm going to leave. Can I leave you in charge, or if anybody has any questions?
Yeah, you can leave. I've put the link in
Okay.
to the chat.
Okay, let's stop recording also.